Hey, this is John Wood coming to you from East Rosebud Fly and Tackle in Billings, Montana. It's winter here, but I'm thinking of spring and lake fishing with chironomids. So today I'm going to show you a little pattern called the Imposter Pupa. It's very simple. It's just one tricky little technique right towards the end to form these bright orange wing buds. Other than that, it's really straightforward. Now I like to tie this on the Firehole 317 in size 12, and you can go down as far as you want. These also work pretty good in rivers in various colors, but for me it's a lake fly. The body is going to be Ultra 140 in rusty brown. Start that right behind the eye of the hook, pop it loose, and then I'm going to put the rib on, which is small copper ultra wire. Start that right there, and then just wrap it all the way down to the bend of the hook, and then come right back, add another layer. If you are tying this with a 70 denier, then you're probably going to want to add a couple more layers, but with the 140 denier on these bigger hooks, it does just fine with just the 2 layers. Now I'm going to flip that around and wrap 4, 5. I want 6 wire wraps showing, and on the 7th I'm just going to come and wrap in here and add a little bulk right at the end, and you'll see where the bulk comes from in just a bit. What it's for is I want to try to match the bulk that occurs in the thorax when those wing buds start to pop on chironomids. So I built a little bit of bulk right there, and that's going to be our thorax. Now I'm going to use you can use either burnt orange or fluorescent orange, depending on how bright you want the wing pads to be. But I love it in orange. The other colors that I've tried using it doesn't work quite as well. And I don't know if that's visibility or the fact that it matches the orange of the chironomids when they're popping into pupas. But that's what I've settled on. And all I've done is cut a section. I tied a knot in the center just so my fibers don't get wild and crazy. And I'm going to tie both sides of these wings from the bottom here. I'm going to start, and this is going to end up being the wing on this side of the hook. Get a couple of wraps. If I can get my thread to cooperate, it'll be a lot better. There we go. Get a couple of wraps that are open there and pull that back to where that trimmed end of that Antron yarn is going to be covered up with our thorax. Get a couple more. Now I'm going to take my nail and kind of slide that around to where it's at the bottom, but on that side of the hook, definitely. And then I'm going to cinch that in place, bring the thread back forward, and we're going to do that again. I want to trim that to where those ends are nice and even. Catch it, but on this one I'm going to keep the Antron on this side of the hook. There we go. And then just kind of loop that out of the way. Now I'm just going to build the bulk for the thorax. And ideally, I would like for it to be tapered to where it's pretty fat in the back and not quite as fat towards the front, because I'm going to need room up here to tie off the wings. Now to tie off the wings, just going to pull that down. We're going to lock the wing on this side first, and you won't be able to see it until I flip the hook over. By pulling that down, and I want it towards the top. There we go. Now I've got both of them locked down. And now you can see how that comes up at an angle, and the wing bud ends up right up at the top of the hook. Now I'm wrapping till I'm just right up against the eye of the hook. And then I'm going to take one wrap all the way back to my tie-off point, so that when I fold this over and bring my thread back there, it locks it down really well. I do not want to bring my thread in front of that fold, because it tends to pull that off of there. So I'm going to make my whip finish, just 4 or 5 wraps right there behind the fold. You notice there is no thread over that fold. Cut my thread really close, pull these straight up, and clip them off as close as you can. Now, because that Antron is a little bit slick, I'm going to use a water-based Rod Builder's thread color preserver, and put a really, really thick douse of that on there. I want it completely saturated. You can do the entire fly if you want, but it's not really necessary. But you do want to put it over that whip finish to make sure that it doesn't come undone later. Now I let that soak in for just a little bit, and then just dab off the excess. So it's still nice and damp, saturated in the center, but you don't have any liquid on top. If you leave that liquid on top, it tends to create a shell that pops off, and then your fly looks a little bit funky. But this way it's going to fish, it's going to be very durable, and put that in any lake with some big chironomids, you're going to catch some fish.